Howdy folks, welcome back. So I got you back over here at the FAA camera in Attawapiscata, Ontario, and let's put this into motion here. I want you to watch over here as the sun comes out and goes behind this big object that I showed you a couple weeks ago. So there it comes, and see how it dims down? Okay, now watch this time as it goes across the sky. Because last time, there was a missing frame. Last time, it dimmed out a second time right about here. And this time, it's not. So just watch as this goes through here real quick. I'm going to speed it up. Okay, so starts off bright, one dim, and a missing frame, but it's still the same intensity as it goes across the sky. So it's only dimming out once instead of twice like last time. Now here we are a couple weeks ago. Now watch as it dims out twice. Once, twice. Once, twice. Okay? Now back to here. You can make out the secondary object is right here. The sun is now clearing the top of this object and no longer is light bending around two objects. It's only bending around the one, and it maintains one single thing after the initial dimming out. So can you see the difference? I'm trying to point out that this has changed now. Either this object has shifted, or as we're rotating around the sun, we have shifted a little bit, and these two objects are no longer in the same alignment. Now, I have people say that this could be a reaction to the iris in the camera. Well, if this was the iris in the camera, the sun is still shining directly into it, and how come it's not dimming out a second time like it did 2 weeks ago? You see that? It only dims out the one there. That's just a missing frame. The intensity is the same all the way across. So I'm trying to point out that there's a difference between 2 weeks ago. Instead of a double flash, double dimming, we have only one dimming, and that either this object has shifted or we have shifted. Now, I have people saying that if this is really an object, this close to the Earth, there would be, dramatic effects. Well, I'm not saying this object is this close to the Earth. It's actually that big. The sun is 93 million miles away. This object is so big, it could still be 80 million miles away and this big in the sky. Now I'm going to take you back to September 10th of 2017 when this object was captured in a solar flare. We're going to go through this frame by frame. Here's the flare starting to come out. It's illuminating this object right here, which turns out to be a much bigger object than just the dot here. It has what appear to be debris tails coming off of it, which looks like wings, so this might be Nibiru. Then, right behind it is our object. Here you can clearly see there's a bigger object that is sucking material off the sun and into this. Here is a conduit of material coming off of our sun and into this object. There's also a damage ring or an impact zone on the surface of this planet showing the matter coming off the sun and into this planet. Now, something I need to explain is our sun is the size of this white circle. Not the black thing, that's the occulter. The sun is the size of this white circle. This object is probably still behind the sun at a 45-degree angle, pointing back that way, pointing back into the frame this way. Okay, if it were straight back, it would be pointing back this way. If it were 90 degrees, it would be off to the side over here. So this object is bigger than it appears in this frame because it's still back behind the sun. So I'm going to go forward a little bit here. All right, here it is, still coming out. And see how much bigger it got? And it's still a little bit behind the sun. So right about here, I'd say right about there is where it's 90 degrees to the sun, and the object is about this big right here, actually going off the page. So a circle that big compared to a circle this big, let's just say a rough estimate, maybe 10, 15 times the size of the sun. So that's how this object could appear that big and still be far away. So in my previous videos, I showed you how the sun is starting to drape onto this object. You can make out the curvature of it right here. This goes up out of the screen, over the top, and comes back down around over here. Goes back down underneath the snow, out of the screen. So you can use this curvature right here to estimate how big it's taking up this entire screen. And this object is so big, yet it's still far away and appears this big in our sky. Now, people are saying that there's, we'd be seeing, effects from this thing. Well, I think we are seeing effects. I mean, we've had crazy weather. The gravity from this is pulling magma to the surface, causing volcanoes, earthquakes, fissures to open up. We got the Schumann resonance spiking, hitting millions of frequencies all at the same time, literally shaking the planet, vibrating it so hard that it's causing landslides, it's causing sinkholes, and we are seeing effects from the gravity of this object. Now, another thing I want to address is electromagnetics. You can take an iron nail, wrap it with copper wire, and it's still not a magnet until you put electricity to it. Then it becomes an electromagnet and has the magnetic characteristics. If you take that electricity away, all of a sudden the objects will drop away from that magnet. Similar to what they use in a junkyard for lifting up cars. You add the electricity to it, it becomes a magnet, you turn the electricity off, and it goes neutral. So this object could be in a neutral state, and as it gets more energy from our sun, it's becoming more magnetic. So this is how an object this big could possibly be sitting between us and the sun and not have such a strong magnetic effect, still having a gravitational effect, but the magnetic effect could still be canceled out because this thing is in a neutral state or energy depleted. So what I'm trying to say is we're seeing a difference here. If it were just a camera anomaly or dirt on the lens or whatever, it would still be having the same effect. And now we're seeing a difference in a couple of weeks here. I watch this camera a lot, and not every day do we get a clear day like this. So finally, here's a clear day to where you can see the sun traveling behind this object, and it's bending light around it. It is so massive and has so much density and gravity that the light is bending around and coming to the front side of this object, much like a magnifying glass magnifies light. It takes from behind and focuses it to a focal point on the other side. And what we're looking at is the focal point on the other side of this object as it bends light and it refocuses on the back side. So I just wanted to bring this to you. Now that we had a clear day on this camera, I noticed there was a difference, and I wanted to show you the difference that I had noticed. I hope you learned something from this, and I love you all, and I'll see you next video.